Yeah. So what we're here to do, we're going to talk about the top, trends for 2025 that we think are really going to be things that we need to be focusing on as B2B marketers that aren't necessarily the things you're going to go see if you just Google, as you were saying, Ryan, Google's not always right. What are the things that we need to focus on? So let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we're getting quite a few people rolling in here. If you haven't introduced yourself, go ahead and chat in. Where are you logging in from? We'd love to know that. And we'll go ahead and get started. I was talking to Ryan here a moment ago, but Ryan is our co-host. You want to say hi to everybody, Ryan?
Hey guys, so super stoked to be here and do all the co-hosting duties.
Yeah, and then we have, of course, Andrea Talamantes, who is just back from sunny Florida into cold Minnesota. You want to say hi, Andrea?
Hey everybody. Yeah, I'll be manning the chat today. If you've got anything to chat about, feel free to add in there any questions you might have.
Awesome. Awesome. Heather from San Francisco, good to have you. Steve from Chicago, good to have you. And by the way, we do want to make this as interactive as possible. We've picked the 5 trends that we think are really important for us to talk about, but we'd love to hear from you guys as well. In fact, Ryan, you want to kick it off with a chat question?
Yeah, I would love to do that. Okay, so going back to your brains, thinking through some things you may have heard or looking at, what's one trend that you're seeing that you're either most or least excited about, right? So a trend that you're super pumped about, or it's like, oh no, I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, man, there are so many hot takes and trends out there these days, and not all of them are the right ones, but there's certainly a lot of crazy ones that are out there. One of the trends that I'm not super excited about is just how I see people taking AI in a direction that's not necessarily the right direction. Like, you can use AI to spam the crap out of people if you are nefarious. So that's one trend that I
Mhm.
hope I don't see a lot of. Julia says AI agents. That's a great one, man. I think AI agents are going to be a big deal next year.
Shout out to Julia, another centennial. Whoop whoop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and dig in, and you guys go keep on chatting in the things that you're excited about in terms of trends for 2025, or even as we go through the top 5 trends we have in store for you, and even a bonus. We have a bonus because we wanted 5 and we could not narrow the list down to 5. So Ryan and I arm wrestled last night and decided just to keep 6 in here. But let's go ahead and jump in. Let us know your thoughts in chat as we go through it. But the first trend that really kind of sets the stage for all the other trends we're going to talk about today. And we're just defining it as Houston, we have a pipeline problem, and busting silos is really the only answer that's out there. And I'm going to tee this up and then I'm going to pitch it over to you, Ryan. But Ryan and I get the opportunity to talk to hundreds of B2B companies every single year. And I will tell you that 2024, the biggest theme that we seem to hear more than anything is we are having a really hard time getting people from contacts, uh, folks that are getting added to our database, however they get in there, and turning them into hand raisers or folks that want to actually talk to our sales team. That seems to be like the number one problem that we are running across. And as you dig into it a little bit, it seems to be the challenges that you've got marketing in a silo, you've got sales in a silo, you've got customer service in a silo, and by golly, we're all on the same team. In many ways, we've kind of set ourselves up for failure because we look at these folks in different ways, we measure them differently, we compensate them differently, and that's got to change if we're going to be successful in 2025, right, Ryan?
You bet. One thing I want to just is if you followed me at all in this journey of discussions, I like to use the word sprinkles, right? Because sometimes you got to sprinkle some stuff on there. But as I want to sprinkle this overlay of AI into everything that we're going to talk about today, right? So you will see it not as a prominent theme because it's way here. It's in everything we're doing already. We're exploring ways to use it. So I just wanted to kind of set that stage that Paul and I and whoever else we can weave in and out of the AI discussion. But one of the most important things too in there, Paul, is people have thrown all this AI stuff in there and made it all worse.
Yeah.
Like it's
Isn't that what
accelerating.
marketers always do? We take
Yeah,
a good
it's
thing and
it's
then
so
we,
true.
oh,
We find a shiny object, It works for a little bit, and then we kind of overuse it to the point where it actually sets us back. So a lot of people are experimenting with AI that's actually now amplifying the bad. So the point is that if you have good and you put your amplification on the good, you get more good. But most people are trying to use AI to fix fundamental problems that Paul talked about, and it ultimately cannot just yet, right? As you guys know, I mean, AI is evolving like every millisecond. So maybe by the end of this call, Paul, it could fix it.
Yeah, no kidding. In fact, I don't know if you guys have caught the news about OpenAI and their 12 days of shipments, but they're actually rolling out a different AI feature or update every single day. Like they rolled out Sora, I think, a couple of days ago, and but nobody can get logged in because the demand is so high. So kind of interesting, about what's going on with AI, and really great point, Ryan, because every one of these trends is going to be related to that.
Yeah. So, but one thing in specific that Paul, the biggest trend that's coming is, and I hope it's a realization, and for everybody who's on this call, you get a sneak peek, is realize quickly that you actually are not in control. That's a really hard one to chew on, right? But you are not in control. The buyer is in control. And if we look at the last couple years, the change of buyer behavior is actually getting more compounded and changing faster. So what we're looking at, we have some, I mean, if you guys were with us last month, I don't have any of them handy, but we shared a lot of statistics about how hard it was for B2Bs to actually hit their goals, right? The majority missed pipeline, the majority missed revenue, the majority couldn't get their, pipelines together. So we were all kind of aligned in that. Okay, that's fine, but we won't have 2025 is to be able to lean on that. So like, Paul, let's rip through a couple of these, but think about this, right? 80% of the buyer's journey happens before the sale. If your mouth doesn't hit the floor, it's probably because you've heard that before. But if you've never heard that, your mouth should be on the floor.
Yeah, the thing is, you nailed it, Ryan. And that's, when we think about Houston, we have a pipeline problem. We're still thinking like or acting like so many B2Bs, like there is really a marketing funnel, like a funnel exists. And the reality is there is no marketing funnel anymore. Buyers are out there self-educating. As you mentioned, they're 80% through the buyer's journey before they reach out to sales. They're consuming a lot of information. I think the latest data I've seen is like 7 pieces of content before they're ready to reach out to sales. Buying committees are getting bigger. All of that's happening. And at the same time, not only are we acting like there's a funnel and there's really more of a journey that we need to serve, that we're frustrating the crap out of our buyers, aren't we?
100%. And like, think about that for a second, though. And like, so we're going to get into some of the how do you fix it, but like, you have to be thinking about how do you enable and equip buyers that you don't know, haven't met you, haven't engaged with you in a way that you've kind of thought through the narrative and the plan that they're going through. So while sales funnels, all these things are in kind of dead, we still need to think through what the journey looks like. So we can call it whatever we want, but there's some interesting things in there. Also, keep in mind, we've shared some stats in the past. It's about 220 impressions, I think, was it, Paul?
Yeah, over 200 impressions.
The
Yep.
brand level before your buyer or influencer of the deal decision kind of like logs you in as a plausible option. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So the trend here, and we're going to get in, as Ryan mentioned, a little bit of the how-to in a minute. The trend here is to start thinking about buyer journeys and not think about marketing funnels, and to really start mapping that journey and understanding the information requirements that they have at each stage of the journey, and making sure that you understand the information requirements that they have. What are the most important channels to distribute that information? And guess what? In most cases, until they're really down funnel, gosh, I just used the word funnel, Ryan, and I just said that funnels are dead. Doggone
Hang
it.
up the
But
phone, Paul. Hang up
no,
the phone.
I know. But as they get closer to making a decision, that's not down funnel, closer to making a decision, that they're going to come to your website. But prior to that, we need to make sure that when we understand those information requirements, that we are creating that information in channel appropriate formats and distributing it in those channels where they want that information. I just want to touch on this friction thing for a moment. There's a great study. We linked to it in the resource section of the agenda, where a company, I've got it somewhere in my notes here, that just talked about, I think it was Revenue Hero Report. So you'll see that down in the resource section. They went out to 1,000 B2B websites in the last quarter. So this is not old data. This is like less than 3-month old data. 1,000 B2B websites, okay? 60, and they filled out the primary conversion form. This is not a gated ebook or signing up for a webinar. This is, hey, I want to talk to somebody and get a quote. 60% of those form fills were unanswered at all. 60%. Okay, that blew my mind.
It's kind of sickening, actually.
It is. And the ones that did respond, the average response time was 29 hours. 29 hours. Okay. So that is like the ultimate source of friction in my mind is if you finally get a buyer that's ready to learn more and talk to sales and you're not even reaching out to them or you're taking a day and a half to get to them, that's going to create a tremendous amount of friction. We've got another report that's linked in the resource section about the impact of friction. And in that report, they basically said that 70% of B2B buyers experience supplier side friction in their last transaction, which just means that the buyer wasn't moving as fast, providing the information that they wanted. And the impact of that is a 40% decrease in conversion rates. And so if you're thinking about a trend to work on in 2025, understanding the buyer journey, what are the information requirements that they have, meeting those information requirements in channels where they go to learn, and then doggone it, make it easy for them to become hand raisers, right?
So, Paul, I have quite a question. So, why do you think that 60% is as high as it is for people who like don't even reply, and then when they do, it's 29 hours later? What do you think are some drivers behind that?
Well, I think some of the drivers, it goes back to why busting silos is so important. I think, sales reps think that leads that are generated from marketing are crap. Marketing thinks that sales reps are prima donnas and don't follow up on anything that's not delivered to them on a silver platter with literally a check right there, right? They don't want to work for anything. And the reality is neither one of those are really the truth, right? We just need to be as business leaders better equipped to serving our customer, our ideal customer, and then helping make it as easy as possible for them to become hand raisers. And I gotta slap on us marketers a little bit because we've been leaning on the MQL crutch for a long, long time. And I think that's why sales reps don't like our leads because they think, hey, Joe Blow at yahoo.com email is probably not somebody that I want to spend my time following up with. So, I mean, those are the challenges that we're dealing with today.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the things we can do to fix it.
Well, I just want to say too, if you think about the average cost per lead of a good qualified lead in B2B, I mean, it really can range, but let's just say $700, like a cost of a really good lead. So every time that form fill doesn't get responded to, just grab 700 bucks, go to the toilet and flush it down there.
Yeah, or light it on fire, right? Yeah, absolutely. So I will tell you one of the things that we're doing this year as we're thinking about this. Number one, we are going to map our buyer journey and really try to understand what are the information requirements they need at each stage. We've got a great resource down in the resource section that we just released that you can go and do that on your own. I'm going to screen share a little bit later on. I'll show you what that resource looks like. But it's a Google sheet. You can just download it, make a copy for yourself, and then just go through the exercise with your team and really understand. It's just going to prompt you to go through a bunch of questions that will help you understand your buyer. The other thing that we're doing as it relates to that is we're actually introducing a new lifecycle stage inside of HubSpot, our CRM, and it's called Learner because in my mind, as Ryan and the team and we all kind of thought about how do we fix this pipeline problem because we have it just like everybody else. We realize that we really have three types of leads in our database. We have contacts. Those are people that just entered our system for whatever reason. We have learners. This is the new lifecycle stage that we're introducing, which are people that aren't really here to buy from us today, but they are here to learn from us today. And then we have leads. And so one of the things is we kind of got up under our hood and look at other companies where most companies are treating learners because they're not thinking of them that way, like leads. And if you treat a learner like a lead, all you're going to do is turn that learner off. And so what we're going to focus on is, let's create the lifecycle stage so that we can now have visibility into them and see them. And then let's roll out the red carpet for them and really help them have a wonderful learning experience that ultimately points them into how we can serve them when they're ready. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Nope. Beautiful.
Awesome. So another thing that we're going to do once we have that is just, hyper personalization. I think this is the year. And so we kind of made fun of AI and all the crazy things that AI can do. But I think that this is the year that we're going to focus really hard on how can we hyper personalize our information dissemination, whether it's email, social media, ads, whatever the case may be, to make it as specific to that person that's receiving it so that they feel like we crafted that information just for them and they're getting it at just the right time. And AI is a wonderful tool to help with that because we can take our first party data, enrich it, and then use AI to help us build communication tools or information that we can then publish out to our customers. So that's another big thing that we're looking at doing in 25.
If I can just throw out a fun solicitation. So one of the things, like we're continually evolving email and, Vendy has made great strides, but we're still trying to get there as well. And as you guys know, we always build in public with you. But if you get emails from Paul or I and or even the brand, right? Because I know I've emailed lots of you guys email and Paul has too. If you see something like in one of our emails that just either bugs you or you like, even if you don't want to respond to whatever we're saying, like I would welcome that. If you could just say, hey, this sucks, or hey, this is great, just to kind of give us some feedback, because you guys are the ones, like you're humans, and we would love to have that feedback loop with you, so that we can kind of figure it out. And once we do, we can kind of share the recipe with you guys of how that works. So I just love that.
Yeah, Julia mentioned that hyper personalization can be supported by AI agents 100%.
That's
And
exactly
there's a
right.
lot of AI agents out there today. HubSpot's got some good ones. There's even the AI agent website. I can't remember, is it agent.ai or something
Yes,
like that?
agents.ai.
Yeah, but and to Julia's point, AI agents give you the ability to stitch multiple activities together or actions together, so it's not just a an asynchronous type of situation with the AI that you can actually get it to do multiple steps, and that's going to be pretty important. Another thing that I just as we're thinking about trends to think about the buyer journey, to bust down these silos, to remove friction. Another thing that I would recommend if you haven't done it already, and this is a nod back to one of those reports that we've linked in the resources, is pricing transparency. We've had pricing on our website for a while. A lot of B2B shy away from that. Even think about us in a professional services type of company. It's really hard to put pricing on your website, but we've done it, and we're glad that we have done it because, one, our buyers want it. It's what they want to know. One of the first things all of our customers, whether they're yours or ours, they want to know how much is it going to cost to use your service or your product or solution. And it also, what we found, and Ryan, I'd love to get your perspective on this, but the leads we get are way more qualified when we know that they've been to our pricing page because they understand that, we're a certain, level of service. And that way, if they saw that page and they filled out a form, we know that they at least understand what kind of investment they're looking at.
Yeah, it's part of the self-qualification process, which is our duty to users who are going through the journey and want that 80% of what they need to know before they reach out to you. So it's an obligation, but in some cases too, there are business cases where that's a little bit harder, but it's always a good place to consider upfront transparency.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say on this topic, and then we can move on to the next trend, is, man, as much as you can, and go back and watch last month's jam session if you didn't get a chance to watch it. But we talked about metrics, and it's all about 2025 planning is what the topic was last month, and us marketers, we love to have quotas like MQL quotas and things like that. And one thing that I would really encourage you in 2025 is let's get rid of marketing centric vanity type metrics that make us feel like we're doing a good job. And let's get everybody on the same page, which is producing pipeline and ultimately producing revenue. And I think when you find that you've gotten your team all aligned around one goal, sales and marketing, everyone, and that's generating pipeline and ultimately generating revenue, then all of a sudden we're able to serve that buyer through that journey way better. All right, let's move on to the next trend. And the next trend, if you're following along on the agenda, is that video in 2025, more than any year ever, I think, is going to power your pipeline. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, this is a really fun one. And guys, if you have any opinions on, especially on video, we would love to know because one of the things we're trying to figure out is kind of where everybody is with video, right? Because for me, in the conversations I've had, it's like one of those things like I know I really need to do it. I really want to do it. I don't know how to do it. I think it's really expensive. And ooh, all of a sudden I have all these other priorities that will always kind of put video to the back burner. So if you want to either chime in on chat or jump in the conversation, please do. But Paul, video is huge. And video is so expansive now, right? You have short form, long form, high production, low production. Now you have AI driven video, right? There's some really incredible things that are going from text to video, talking heads, different languages. It can take our pretty little faces and make it look very realistic. There's a million ways, I would say, probably actually a million ways to do this now. So, Paul, how does anybody even start to think about this? What are some of the big trends you saw and like why and what do we do with it?
Yeah, it's interesting because video's been around for a long time. B2Bs have been doing video for a long time, but it really feels like 2025 is going to be the coming out party for a lot of reasons. And I think honestly, we can all thank TikTok for this. Believe it or not, even though we're B2B companies and probably aren't doing a ton in TikTok, but they kind of changed the world and our bias or our consumption preferences as humans. So, it's okay to see a lo-fi video that's vertical, that may be a little bit off brand. And in fact, we're finding that you get way more emotional connection. I've been a fan of video for a long time, just because of like, even if you think about this right here, this is a webinar, this is a jam session, whatever you want to call it. It's also video, right? Julia mentioned it's hard to do video and it can be expensive, and I totally believe that, Julia. But one of the reasons why we do these jam sessions every month beyond the community component that we'll talk about a little bit later is it's a great way to feed our video flywheel. So it doesn't have to be expensive if you just think about it the right way. But one thing that we are seeing, eMarketer did a great study recently, I think came out this year, where, the companies that are investing, B2B companies are investing, the biggest area of growth in their budget is in video. So it's not that they're spending the most in video, but it's the biggest line item that's getting the most additional budget in 2025. And that's because of emotional connection that you can have with your audience. It opens up a lot of different channels for you. For example, next year, we're actually changing from Zoom to Riverside FM to create the video that comes out of this content for the primary reason. One is we'll be able to get very high quality, high production value, even from doing events like this. But it also gives us the ability to easily post-produce vertical videos. And when we have vertical videos, all of a sudden, we can be on Link Talk. Link Talk is the term I use for those vertical style videos that are showing up in your LinkedIn feed these days. But we can also be on Instagram. If we wanted to be on TikTok, we're not going to do that, but we could. And YouTube, right? It gives us all those capabilities. So while creating that personal connection and delivering, trust, authority, all those things we want to do that you just can't do as well with text. At least that's my opinion. What do you think, Ryan?
Oh, we're going to hold that because Julia has a question.
All
I
right.
do.
What's the question?
You can tell me to put a pin in it because it's a very tactical, channel specific question. On LinkedIn, are you hearing anything from your customers about the frustration of LinkedIn kind of turning into a TikTok-esque type platform? I mean, we're seeing a lot of like user generated videos and motivational videos. And, I feel like stuff that just does not apply to business, to B2B, but it is human content, which is what we are all at the end of the day. But I'm like, if I want a video about cute cats or I want a cute motivational video about Oprah, I'm going to Instagram and watching it while I doom scroll as I attempt to figure out what I'm watching on Netflix at the same time. Not to me, for me personally, and maybe I'm the boomer here, LinkedIn just doesn't feel like the place to be doing that kind of content, but I'm seeing it more and more, and it just doesn't feel very authentic. But
Yeah.
I don't have a scope of view of what
Yeah.
your clients are doing.
We don't have any statistics around it. I will tell you that
Even if it's just, by story. Yeah.
yeah, I really hope that LinkedIn can stay the place where we can focus on supporting one another with knowledge and information and tips and useful things. I am not looking forward, but Ryan, I think you said it at the top of the call. Us marketers, we find something and then we just bastardize, spam the heck out of it, right? So I hope it doesn't happen too much on LinkedIn. The thing that drives me the most crazy about LinkedIn is just the algorithm and how hard it is to reach the right people with the right information, especially now that
For
they
sure.
want
Yeah.
you to pay to
Yeah.
get in front of your audience. And so that was where I was going to land the plane on that, Julia. The great thing about LinkedIn is it is very much multimodal today, right? We can have documents, we can have video, we can have text, we can have carousels, we can do a lot of things on there. And then we can pay to ensure that our ICP, and we can guarantee that that ICP person on an ABM list or whatever is going to see that information. And there is no other platform out there that we can do that today. And so, yeah, organically, what's going on our feed, we can't control that a whole lot. But as a marketer, man, we can have multiple formats of useful information and ensure that our target audience sees that content. And that's so key because when we think about just advertising in 2025, we've got to get out of this direct response mindset. Like we're going to run an ad on LinkedIn to try to generate leads. I want everybody on the call today to think about running ads as an information dissemination tool, as a way to get the right information to that buyer at the right stage of where they are in the journey in a format that they're going to consume on platform. So it's not so much about driving traffic to our websites anymore. It's about all the things, the big theme that we've been talking about today, serving that buyer with the right information at the right time.
Yeah.
So one thing to sprinkle on that is a good question. So did you know that the average human scrolls 300 feet a day?
Oh my gosh.
Think about it. 300 feet. That's the size of the Statue of Liberty. So LinkedIn's going to try to get more of that market share, that
Sure.
300 feet. So my guess is that they're going to, just like they did. Remember the AI responses that they had for a while? Well, guess
Oh
what? They're
yeah.
gone. It was
Yeah, those
terrible.
were
Awful.
terrible. Yeah.
LinkedIn is going to be fairly responsive to make sure that we figure it out for their audience because we're a vocal community in LinkedIn. Like people like their LinkedIn. They don't like Facebook for this reason, blah, 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 blah. So give it time, give it hope, but they're going after that 300 feet a day, and I bet you they're going to do a good job with it over time.
Yeah. And so in 2025, everybody that's on the call, I would just say, think about what you're doing with video today, and then think about one baby step that you can take in creating more video in 2025. Like, what's the next level? For us, it's vertical videos, right? We were laughing in the green room before we got started. We literally have over 300 video clips in our video library. We couldn't even use them all there. We have so much video. So what's our next thing? It's not produce more video. It's maintain the video production that we have, but let's do it in a format that we're not using today, which is vertical, that opens up new channels for us. For you, it might be, hey, go to Google Analytics, find your most popular blogs over the last year and see how you can turn those into video. We've got this saying over at Vindy Digital that, if you wrote it, say it. So, you took the time to write something useful that your audience likes. Is there a way you can easily convert that into video? Another thing that we're helping our clients with a lot is going to their we call it found footage, but look at all the webinars that you've done in the past. And can we pull 90-second clips or less than 90-second clips out of those webinars that tell an important story that your buyer is going to care about? And that's one really important stat, is that if you can create a video that expresses useful information in less than 90 seconds, then you have a very high percentage of people that will actually watch the entire video. So think about your video as being sub 90 seconds. That's going to be really important next year as well.
Oh, one last big one. Paul, are we getting ready to move to the next big one?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. So one thing I want to sprinkle in and leave with you guys is be thinking about CTV, right? Connected TV. Be thinking about ways that you can leverage that. And if you guys have any questions and just want to kind of get an insight into what's going on, we're doing a lot with it. But ultimately, simple video, short videos that you're able to load up and broadcast across, frankly, any channel you could possibly imagine in a very controlled and measurable way. Watch out for CTV. Watch out for paid video ads. It's going to be hot right underneath the umbrella of video.
Yeah, really great point. And for those of you that don't know what CTV is, that's basically getting a commercial in front of your buyer um, on while they're streaming on Netflix or watching a football game on YouTube or whatever the case may be. And it's going to be huge for B2B because if you think about the commercials that we see, I try to avoid commercials as much as possible, but all of the platforms have a way to make me see a commercial every now and then. When you see a B2B commercial that's about exactly what you care about, the engagement rate is through the roof. So, really great point. Think about how sizzle videos, what we have thought about traditionally as sizzle videos, can become CTV commercials in 2025. That's one thing that we're definitely going to explore next year. So,
Yeah, and
great
I'll
for
leave
bringing
you
that
with
up.
this. We've launched some for clients, and they didn't spend $1 million on creating the video. It was
Oh,
literally stuff off the shelf. It's do a little cleanup, some lower thirds, intro, outro, load it up, and go. It does not have to be what it used to be because it's not.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So great point. So let's go ahead and move on. I just noticed the time here. So we're going to move on to the third trend if you're following along in the agenda. And this trend is that events are no longer a moment in time. And, we've been doing B2B digital marketing for a long time. And next year will actually be our 25th year to be doing this kind of stuff. And I can tell you one thing that's been almost there since day one is webinars, right? B2Bs love their webinars. B2Bs love their events. And the way we want you to start thinking about events in 2025, there's a couple of key things. The first one is start thinking about your digital events as a way to serialize your content. And so, one thing I didn't mention at the top of the call that I was going to, but so I'll mention now because I just remembered. Today's jam session is a wrap on our third season. So we've been doing these monthly jam sessions in this format for 3 years. And the amazing thing that that's done for us, instead of doing a webinar in the spring and a webinar in the fall, or, oh my gosh, we got this new product coming out, so let's do a webinar to get the world aware of it. We've just got this steady diet of information that's coming out. We're hearing from our community the topics that matter to them. We're building a community. Serialized events and a community connected to that is one of the best ways to nurture your audience while they're in that learner stage. And so, I cannot encourage you enough on the value of that. In fact, Ryan and I did an analysis, 2 or 3 months ago, where we looked at where people come from ultimately become hand raisers for us at Vendy Digital. Over 40% of the people that become hand raisers and ask us to talk to them about doing some kind of service for them have been to one of our jam sessions. And so that just shows the value of, having serialized content. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Yeah, and if we want to get into this later, but I'm also a huge fan of the physical events, and we have, some topics on that too. But physical events came back really strong in the last couple of years. Last year was probably the biggest, and in some cases, conferences were bigger post-COVID than they were pre-COVID, right? The big 50, 60,000 people ones. But that's an area that a lot of our clients do in-person events, whether it's a trade show, a conference, some of them big, some of them are like real niche, intimate ones. If you're doing them, keep doing them. And there's a lot of ways you can optimize and, drive more people to it, activate during, and then obviously the follow-up. If you're not doing them, that is something I would also recommend you look at. Like Paul, the physical events, like how high do you get at a physical event when you get to hang out with your people?
Yeah. And I think this is a great time to bring that up, Ryan, because in my mind, events are all just about building relationship and nurturing your community in that learner stage. And so the virtual ones that we do every month that we call jam sessions, that's just a way for us to do it in a predictable, everybody knows it's the second Wednesday of the month, and it's a topic driven, and the community helps us define that. But as a result of that, we're building a relationship. So, last year we did a physical event in Denver and we did a physical event in Dallas. We're going to do more of those next year. But to me, it's a 1-2 punch because we're building relationships every month. And then we're like, hey, all of you guys in Denver, we're going to be in Denver in 2 weeks. And it's amazing. Ryan, tell everybody a little bit about what that first Denver event was like.
Well, it was incredible. And what the thing that's, again, was sort of, I did not see this coming, but it was still a post-COVID wave because the number of people that came up to us and said, like, this is the first actual physical event I've been to since COVID blew my mind. So, people were just very excited to be there and actually like, dust off their networking boots and figure out how to do it all again. And it was just, and I mentioned the word high because like being able to meet real people in your world is just amazing. And B2B buyers, they're all trying to get to the point of trust, right? And like we all send all these messages and we're trying to connect with people. They don't know who to trust and where to go. And being able to look someone in the eye and say, here's my phone number. If you ever have a problem, you get stuck, you get confused, let's talk through it for 30 minutes, see if we can solve the problem. That's it. Right. And what's great too is, so I know Kingston Duffy's the CEO of Nabu's on here, and they're one of our partners and they're one of our event sponsorships. And just even having two companies together that are telling a story that solves a lot of problems. Like just the response from that. I mean, we're not here to sell stuff in those moments, but it's to educate. And the response and the connection and the emotional, whoops, blurry. The emotional connection we had with people is long lasting, and that's what I love about them.
Yeah. So a big tip there would be, one, see how you can serialize your webinars in 2025. So instead of doing once every now and then, could you do it every single month for an hour? How would that look? And then number two, connect that with these micro personalized, not trade show feeling events. And sure, go to trade shows if you've got trade shows to attend, that's great. But can you pull off, a handful of these small, intimate events? And the biggest eye opener for me, Ryan, when we did the first event we did last year was in Denver. That's why we're talking about it. But is the aha moment for me was when we started meeting with folks that were showing up and how excited they were to be there. But they reminded me that we're all working virtually today. Almost nobody goes into an office anymore. So even the people that were coming to our Denver event, their teammates aren't even in Denver. Their teammates are all over the country. So just being able to go somewhere physical with other people that know marketing and to drink a beer and have some appetizers or whatever, and maybe learn a thing or two, was just like a breath of fresh air. We've kind of talked about it, and I mentioned it in my LinkedIn post today. Everybody wants a marketing, but all of us B2B marketers, we just want a marketing buddy. And so this gives us an opportunity to do that. So how can you be, or your brand become the buddy of your audience? And how can marketing help facilitate that?
Yeah, and just be aware. We're actually getting our events calendar way ahead. We're going to try to have everything so you guys can kind of go through and see what's coming and where we're at. So be aware of that. And just know if you're in Denver or Dallas, we're doing it again, right? We
Yeah.
can't wait to meet people and hang out in person, eat some tacos together and things like that. So we're committing. I would say, our plan for this year is to do less, but double down on the things that work.
Yeah,
And we're doubling
absolutely.
down on hanging out with more people in person and virtually.
Yeah. And I'm going to make one more comment and then we'll move on to the next trend because we'll pick this comment up a little bit, I think, in a couple of trends down the road. But events are wonderful for throwing off first party data. So when we get into data, one of the things we need to think about is how can we do things that are going to throw off more first party signals? Events are wonderful for that, right? You've got registration, you've got attendance, you've got people that ask questions during the event. So just think about how events can help you get more first party data. All right, let's move on to trend number 4, and
Love
that's
this one.
yeah, reinvent your content strategy, right? So that's the next thing that we want to talk about because in 2025, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, it's not about driving everybody to our website, and that's where all of our great content lives. In 2025, it's understanding what information our buyers need at what stage and where they are going to learn and actually crafting content that is channel appropriate that meets their needs where they are. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Well, I mean, this is one of the things that has just been a little, well, mind-blowing in many ways is we've talked about this Nabu tool and just being able to just do what you just said, Paul. And Nabu is a very simple tool to install and does all the things to be able to watch what somebody's consuming, how much of it are they consuming, where are they going. You can actually test and play with showing them specific journeys with specific content that's actually dynamic. So we've learned a ton about who visits our site, what are they consuming, what are they looking for, and if they go down like a marketing automation content journey, which we've developed that takes them through this whole thing, we can see like how committed are they to learning this thing? Or maybe they, then spun off and got into marketing automation or came back over down into AI. So Paul, like that kind of stuff and that kind of visibility is going to set us up for what we're going to, talk a little bit about, but this whole hybrid web, right? The net Kingston, you're probably smiling over there, but we've had some amazing conversations about what's going to come in the next couple of years. Today's just the tip of the iceberg. But having the knowledge is one thing, Paul. What the hell do we do with it?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And so the one thing, that we've been preaching for a while, but it's still very relevant to reinventing your content strategy is start with 3 to 5 content pillars. I can't tell you how many B2B companies that we talk to and work with and consult with that are all over the place on their content. And the challenge with that is that marketing is an exercise in memorization, right? We have to stay in our lanes, so to speak, so that our buyer will remember how the heck we can help them. And if we write about too many things, then ultimately we're going to confuse them and they're not going to remember how we can help them. And so, one of the very first things Ryan and I do every year when we're putting together our strategy is define 3 to 5 content pillars that simply answer the question, what do we want to be known for? Like, what do we
Mhm.
want our buyers when they hear Vindy? What do we want them to think about us? And that informs our content pillars. And then we make sure that we build everything around that. These jam sessions are connected to that. Our social content is connected to that. And then now we're just trying to figure out how do we build out our content flywheel, to your point, Ryan, so that we're delivering that information as comprehensive as possible and as in many different formats as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. And just being able to, we talked about it earlier, but bringing some of these things back together, being easy to buy from means that you're easy to learn from,
Absolutely.
right? And I have to tell on Vendy a bit. We have probably one of the most extensive B2B marketing and sales libraries on the planet, but it's really hard to find it. So this is one of our big things this year is how do we help you guys get more of this content in a way that you want to get to it. And some of that is just the actual structure of how we, we almost have an LMS, Paul, like a learning management system, like it's so big.
Right.
But then how do we get the content? So when you find that topic that you're dying to learn about, maybe it is multimodal, Paul. Maybe it pops up. It's like, oh, do you want the video? Do you want the short? Do you want the long? Do you want an AI agent to just tell you what everything says? Like, however you need it, we've got to give it to you that way.
Yeah. And so this is where AI, in my opinion, can be a champion for you. So I'm not a fan of starting with a blank sheet of paper and asking AI to write you a blog or an ad or anything. But imagine having a repository of all of your great IP and your point of view on all those things. And then you use AI to help you repurpose and reformat that information in channel appropriate ways. And that's a huge shift for us for next year. So we've been very much content flywheel focused for the last several years, which means we do something like this event, which is a long form content. We take the transcript. That transcript then gets repurposed into clips from this or blogs or social content. That's all great. We're not abandoning the content flywheel at all. But next year, we're going to pay very heavy focus on building for the channel. So yeah, you'll still see little clips from this event showing up in our feeds, but we're also going to build specifically for LinkedIn, specifically for the channels that matter to us. We're going to build CTV commercials that are built from the ground up, telling an important story. And so that's the big shift for us is we're going to actually build for the channel in a way that we think our audience wants to consume that information. And Ryan, you just gave me a great idea. It's based on some of the things we've been talking about internally about kind of this choose your own adventure or roll your own. And how can we create experiences for our customers whether they're in social or on our website that let them engage with our content and get to the next piece of content in a way that feels very natural and that they're selecting it because we can with AI and with some of the tools like Navu, we can do that today, which is pretty cool.
Mhm. Yep.
All right. Anything else that we want to cover on? One thing, zero click. I've got one. We just need to make sure that we talk about zero click before we move on to the next tip. And that is we cannot use social media as a clickbait channel anymore. The information that we share on channels like LinkedIn, we've got to deliver the information and deliver the goods in the feed. We can't expect the audience to click to our website. So yeah, our website has a purpose and a place, but the clickbaity, click here to read our blog, that's not going to work anymore. We've got to deliver the essence of that blog in the social media post. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan, before we move on?
Just the theme of less is more, and the consumers and the buyers are saying the same thing. Less, don't make me jump through this. Give me as few clicks as possible.
Awesome. All right, we've got two trends in 12 minutes. We can do this. I feel good. I feel good. I feel good. All right. Trend number 5, first party data and ABM will unite for precision marketing. And so really what we're talking about here is we went back and forth on what to call this trend. At the end of the day, ABM is going to dominate B2B in 2025, in my opinion. But ABM doesn't work without unified data, and it doesn't work with us being really smart about all the different ways that we can capture first-party data. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
Just a fun one. You remember that time Google said that all third-party data was going away? We couldn't track anybody and do anything and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, they obviously rolled that back. But out of that, forced a lot of us to go think about first-party data, and it was actually a really good thing, right? Because most of us hadn't thought about it in a while. But that's going to be critical. And again, it comes back to everything we talked about, the hyper personalization, how you do that with events, how you then bring that back into the pipeline to unite sales and marketing. Like it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So I know a lot of folks out there today probably have your sales team on Salesforce, marketing's working out of HubSpot or some other marketing automation platform. Now is the time to really think about how can you unify your data. I'm very grateful that at Vindy we have all of our data. The sales side and the marketing automation side is all inside of HubSpot because that's going to become way more critical in the future. We saw it at Inbound and the big releases that they had at Inbound this year. All of these platforms are going to overlay really smart AI on top of your data. And so if you've got a little bit of data in Salesforce and a little bit of data in HubSpot and in other places, it's going to be hard for you to do the hyper personalization that Ryan talked about. And so one of the ways people are getting around that is with CDPs, customer data profiles and repositories. So that's another way that you can do it if you're big enough to need that and your sales team is really married to Salesforce. But man, the more you can get your data together, the more the AI tools are going to work, the more you're going to be able to see signals. And then just think about all the different ways that you can see first party signals. There are so many ways out there. It's not just somebody filling out a form on your website. Like, for example, one of the things we're doing and testing right now is this new tool called B2B. And I've got a link to the tool down in our down in the notes there, the resources. But it's a really cool tool because it will reveal to you people that are coming to your website, the actual human being, and actually give you a link to their LinkedIn profile. So that's an example of that's first party data. They're coming to your website. It's just getting enriched or enhanced by a third party tool. There's so many different ways that you can leverage something like that. Anything
Yeah, and
else,
just
Ryan, you want to add on
yeah,
that?
I was
Any
gonna say,
tips?
so Julia's got a little spice coming in with saying basically ABM is kind of a theme every year. That's true. It has been that way for a long time, actually. So it's a valid point. The point we're trying to make is it's ABM and, right? It's ABM with better data, right? What we could do with ABM last year is different than we're going to be able to do with this year. And frankly, most people still kind of bastardize ABM.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that it's really not. So true ABM comes back to actually a lot of the themes we talked about, but again, it's the hyper personalization based on signals.
Mm-hmm.
It's going after a buyer group who's part of an account. That is not easy to execute in most situations. It takes a ton of first party, third party, fourth party, all the different data sets,
Exactly.
and then bringing them together in one house to be able to say, okay, I know a little bit about you. You're searching for all these things. I know you're in pain. I know you have problems, and I do believe that I can help you. So here's what I think at this stage on this Tuesday you need to know.
Yeah, and I'm going to just jump on that real quick, and this might be a great conversation to keep having in the Jammers group. But historically, ABM has been about come up with a target account list, tier it, have the sales reps follow up with tier one accounts, marketing goes and surrounds the tier two and three accounts, and then hope that all that works so that somebody will answer the phone call from the SDR, set a meeting. But when you combine it with unified data, Julia, now what we're able to do is actually monitor those signals, have those signals influence lead score or put them in categories so that we know they're interested in these topics, and then have your marketing automation fire off hyper-personalized messages that drive people to want to become hand raisers. And so that's really the big opportunity that we see in 2025. And with that, though, and so let's keep having that conversation, but have it in the Jammers group. We have 7 minutes, Ryan. We can do this.
Yep.
I feel
Okay.
good.
Now,
So,
6 is the bonus, Paul. We don't have to get to 6. It's
yeah,
a
we
bonus.
could just call it a wrap right now,
Well,
right? We could say
we
we're
wanted
done.
5. We could just stay to 5. Now, we
Yeah.
could go to bonus.
All right. So bonus. You probably noticed that your search engine traffic is going down. The trend is that that's going to keep on going down. And so organic traffic is going to decline. It declined 11% last year. Search engine land is predicting that it's going to decline another 25%. That's because we don't have to go to search to get answers anymore. We can go to AI to get answers. And so in 2025, you need to start thinking about not search engine optimization as much anymore, but LMO. What the heck is LMO, Ryan?
Language model optimization. Never thought I ever would be in this position, right? So language model, right? That's all the AIs, that's the machines, that's the things that's processing all this stuff, but it's optimizing it for them. In interesting light, like so Google has its own LMO, right? And it's showing the suggested things. That's fantastic. But personally, I feel like they're behind. I feel like they're missing the boat completely on what we're now almost accustomed to a couple of years into this AI journey. But language model optimization, Paul, how does it differ from search engine optimization in a couple of ways?
Yeah, so just two things. One is SEO is very key phrase driven. So you think about, I don't want to show up for this key phrase. LMO is really more about the comprehensiveness of a topic. And so one of the interesting things is, it goes right back to 3 to 5 content pillars. The beauty of having 3 to 5 content pillars and not 25 content pillars is you can be very comprehensive on those topics. And that's exactly what these library or AI tools are really looking for. They want to know that you have the information and the answers. And so if you can have 3 to 5 content pillars and you can address them comprehensively, and make sure that you're not leaving anything out, in your long form content, then you have a much better opportunity for showing up. The other thing that you want to think about, and this is where they kind of overlap, Ryan, is Google's EEAT, which is expertise, experience, expertise, authority. I haven't to look because I couldn't remember.
Yeah,
Authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Those are things that Google has been saying, hey, if you want to rank well in Google, be sure that you show that you're an expert. Be sure that you can show that you're an authority. Be comprehensive in covering these topics. Don't leave the reader wanting more. And we've been following those guidelines for a long time, and it's actually been helping us. One thing that you can start doing today, beyond redoing your content plan and starting writing more comprehensively, go look at your Google Analytics and start looking for traffic coming from Perplexity, coming from OpenAI. You're going to find that it's there. And I'm going to show you something, and we'll wrap on this probably. I'm going to do a quick little screen share here. If I can figure out which screen I want to show. Here we go. And share. Are you guys seeing that?
It's coming. There it is.
Okay, great. So this is Perplexity, which is an AI-driven search engine. And here's one of our topics, B2B SEO ranking factors. Now, we wrote a long blog about this last year, but that blog started from a jam session just like this on the topic of SEO ranking factors for 2024. You can see right here is the replay of that. And so and I think this came out in February 14th of last year or this year. When we created this content, we weren't thinking about optimizing, doing any kind of LMO. It was just being comprehensive on the topic. And as a result of that, for this key phrase, you can see we're showing up right here. we're showing up right here. Now, here's the big difference between search and LMO. You're not going to win the click. More than likely, even though our content is what's feeding Perplexity the answer, more than likely we're not going to earn the click, but we are going to earn the impression. And so we've got a big deep dive piece coming out in 2025 on how all of us as marketers need to start thinking about how do we run our business if clicks are no longer valid. And we didn't want to go into that today because that's such a deeper topic. But the reality is clicks are kind of going by the wayside, and we need to learn how to win even if we're not getting clicks back to our website. Anything you want to add to that, Ryan?
No, I just, as we close, just buckle up, everybody. Use each other, talk to each other. There's a lot that's changing that we've all known and thought what we knew, that it is time to unite and just serve each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, if you're not a part of our community on LinkedIn, down at the bottom under announcements, you'll see a link to our Jammers community on LinkedIn. Please join us there. We can continue the conversation. Maybe Julia, if you want to talk more about ABM, happy to do that over there. In January, we've got an awesome jam session on the top 5 challenges when it comes to email marketing and how to really become an amazing email marketer in 2025. So you don't want to miss that. Sherry Otto's coming back, ex-HubSpotter. She did a great job this year. Can't wait for that session. And then we've got a ton of awesome resources linked down at the bottom for you. Please check those out. And wow, I can't believe it. It's the last episode of 2024. So happy holidays, everybody. And we will see you next year. Thanks, everybody. Take care.